Me, Carol Sirabisi, and it's so delightful as always to be with you for our conscious conversations with Carol. Yay, Denise says she found me. Excellent. Woohoo. All right. So, let's see. Last week was really cool. We had a couple of questions. I've got a couple of questions today too. But I wanted to go back to one of the questions because the answer that I gave was good, but it was incomplete, and it was about what to do. One of our love influencers, Esther, was asking what to do about her situation with her friends when they weren't showing up exactly how she wanted them to. And I kind of shifted into what she can do if they're not showing up for her, and talked about community and creating things that she would want. And all of that is accurate and all of that is true. But I wanted to add something, Esther, and I think this is connected to both the other two questions that I've got here as well. But it's all about who we are as love influencers, right? So the first question to ask yourself when anyone in your life, whether it's your friends or your partner, is not showing up the way you want them to, when they're not doing that, or they're, yeah. The first question is to kind of reflect in and think about, how am I participating in this dynamic? Am I stepping in to this relationship, into this experience with an open heart? Am I truly aligned with my essence when I'm interacting with these folks, with these people, with this person? Or because I'm triggered and because I'm feeling insecure or vulnerable or rejected or abandoned, am I already showing up in a way that's closed off, in a way that's protected, in a way that's not as vulnerable as really intimate relationships need us to be? So that's an important question to ask yourself before you take any kind of action, is to take whatever message you're getting from out there. And sometimes the messages can be given to us in not pleasant ways, right? If someone is reacting from their ego, they might be saying some mean things. They may be saying some hard to hear things. But just because they're hard to hear doesn't mean that there isn't some truth to it. So I think it's important to first reflect in, how am I participating in this dynamic, in this energy that I don't want to live in anymore because it doesn't feel good? First question to ask. Then, once you've asked that question and you start showing up a little bit differently, you start bringing your essence, you start bringing your heart, you start taking a risk and being a little bit more vulnerable. Then the question is it time, if my partner or my friends are still not showing up the way I want them to, then the question is it time for me to let go of this relationship or these relationships? And I think that's where I was answering the question from last week, which is, okay, so the question is it time for me to move on? Is it time for me to let go? And sometimes that's really crystal clear. Sometimes, however, we've got this voice in our head saying, it's time to let go because they're not showing up and they don't really care about me. And this person is not a good person and they don't love me, and all of those things. Now, certainly all of those things, right, seem on some level like good reasons to let go of the relationships. Well, yes and no. If you're getting those messages, this person doesn't love me, this person doesn't care about me, I'm not a priority to them, those would be things that are important to know. But you got to step back and really, really reflect. Is this true? Is this true that my friends don't love me or don't care about me? Is that true? Is it true that because my partner didn't show up the way I wanted them to, that they don't care or that I'm not a priority to them? The reflection of that question is really, of those questions is really important because sometimes that may be true. And you've got to look at the whole picture of your relationships with these people. If generally speaking, you are being treated poorly and you're being, let's say in a group, being treated as the scapegoat, or you're being bullied, or in your intimate relationships, someone really is being disrespectful most of the time. That's important information to have. But the only way you can really know for sure about all of that is if you're in your adult self, filtering the experience through your essence, not your ego. Because your ego is always going to look for an enemy. Always. Always. There's no question about it. Either your ego is going to look to blame somebody else or yourself. So you want to make sure that you are aligned with your essence and that your adult is able to step back and respond. This is all about being responsive, not reactive. Because if you're reacting, we can guess that your ego is going to be the one making decisions and then taking actions. And that's the last place we want you to be taking action from, because it's only going to perpetuate the drama and perpetuate the misery and perpetuate the pain. So we step into our essence. We take a few moments to breathe. We may need to take an hour. We may need to take a day. We may need to take a week to regroup and line ourselves up with essence and get our adult back in the driver's seat. When we do that, it becomes a little easier to reflect on this question. Am I being disrespected? Is this person I'm talking about, a friend, my partner, are they in general disrespectful to me? Or was it just that particular instance because they were triggered and they were feeling insecure and vulnerable? Or is it my friends really disrespect me, or they don't care about me, they don't prioritize me? Or is it that right now life is just super crazy and everyone is so involved in their own experiences and their own attempts at navigating through life, and everybody's just doing the best that they can and they're just not able to show up the way I want them to? That may be more realistic. Now, I don't know the specifics of your circumstances, whether it's Esther or anyone else, whether it's, again, your family members, your partner, your friends, but it's so important to have the muscles to fall back on when you're wobbling, when you're feeling insecure, when you're feeling abandoned, when you're feeling rejected, when you're feeling unloved. To be able to take that conscious breath and really press pause and discern what the true reality is. And then you listen. And you listen for your intuition. And this leads me into the next question that I got from Sally this week, who asked, how do I know if the sound of my inner voice is my intuition or my ego? Ooh, what a good question. I love that question. That's really good because sometimes it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell when you don't know how to discern. And it's hard to tell when you're triggered. It's hard to tell when the amygdala is firing. It's hard to tell the difference between the whisper of your intuition, that soft inner voice, versus the loud yelling, banging, and screaming of your ego. Of course, the way I'm describing it, it would seem like it's easy to tell the difference. But when that amygdala is firing, all we know is that something is happening and I'm listening to the voice that's in my head. And so I wind up reacting. This is not easy to do. So please don't beat yourself up if you can't do this immediately. This takes practice. And it's not just a mind exercise. It's a physiological exercise too, because when the amygdala is triggered, that primitive part of your brain, you're in survival mode. So your whole body is reacting with your hormones, right? The cortisol, the adrenaline is firing. And it's really, really hard to override that life-saving reaction with a more higher consciousness response, where you're tapping in to the neocortex, the newer part of your brain. It's hard to override that reaction when your brain thinks that you are in life-threatening danger. So this is not easy to do, which is why it's so important to practice creating space for yourself so that you have the muscles that you need to press the pause button. Because when you have access to that pause button, you're able to slow things down. And realistically, again, practically speaking, physiologically speaking, simply taking a conscious breath, do it with me right now. A nice, deep, conscious breath. Conscious meaning you are aware of it. Can you feel how the energy just softens? Everything slows down. So just the act of taking a nice, deep, conscious breath will begin to temper that primitive brain reaction. And you're creating space, inner space in your mind to now shift, to override that primitive reaction, move into the newer part of your brain, the higher consciousness, and choose and decide, okay, you know what? I think the voice that I'm hearing, or the voice that I just heard a little while ago when I was so fired up, was probably the sound of my ego, was probably the sound of my fear. And if I slow down enough and I'm quiet and still enough, I might be able to hear the sound of my intuition, which is softer, which is not as urgent, which is like a gentle, it may feel like a nudge, but it's gentle. It's kind. It's a tap on the shoulder. It's a little message that says, you know what, darling? Something needs to change. It may say something needs to change in you. It may say something needs to change in this relationship. It may say it's time to let go of your attachment to this person or this group. It may. And it may tell you, no, you know what? These people are good people. They're just involved with themselves. They may tell you this relationship, actually, generally speaking, the majority of it is really good and we have a good foundation. And your intuition may be telling you, you know what? You need to do a little bit more self-reflection. Maybe there's a block in you. Maybe there's a story in you that's getting in the way of you showing up exactly how you want to show up and being the person that you want to be in this relationship that you want to create and manifest. All of those are really, really important messages. The ego is going to go black and white. The ego is going to go urgent. the ego is going to tell you, you need to change this. You need to cut them off. You need to block yourself. You need to shut yourself down now. You need to do it now because you've been taken advantage of way too long, right? You get that head thing going on. That's your ego. That's not your essence. And that actually leads into our third and final question for the day. And this comes from Kathy. And she says, after being single for so long, how do I open my heart when I have become so independent? Oh, my lovely Kathy. I hear you. I hear you. I know what it's like to have become so independent and living on your own and not reliant upon anyone for anything really. And maybe even go from a place of needing a relationship at certain points in our lives to now you're saying you're not even sure, maybe you're not even sure that you want one. How do I open my heart? And you know, my darling, Kathy, of course, I have the benefit of knowing you. I know that your heart is so open, and perhaps it's just closed down a little bit because of the fear of what may happen if you open up. But I want us to be discerning here too, and this is obviously for everyone who's watching, whether you're actually in a relationship and you've shut down parts of your heart because you've gotten so comfortable there and there's no risk there, or whether you're just in beginning stages and maybe you're dating, or maybe you're in the new stage of a new relationship and it's hard to really open up the space there. I want to put this out there to you as a possibility that perhaps what's happening is not that your heart is closed. It may simply mean that you are practicing discerning how much to open up, how soon. Like to give yourself some space around that. That as you get to know someone, it's really a healthy thing to hold your heart tenderly, right? We don't want it walled off, right? Because then there's no opening for love and connection. But to really trust that if you step in to your heart, that it's a really healthy thing to not just step in to something new like this. That it's a really healthy thing to perhaps step into something new holding that tender heart and protecting it. That's different than walling it off. And sometimes I think it's hard to know the difference if we're so used to stepping in like this, that when we step in like this, it's a different feeling. So maybe, Kathy, it's a new practice of getting used to what it feels like to have your heart accessible, but not completely wide open until you're certain that whoever you're with has earned the trust, the care, to be trusted with the care of your tender, beautiful heart. And to know that this is the ultimate act of self-love, is to hold your own heart with tenderness. I hope that makes sense. I hope you can feel that. It is important, I think, to recognize if you truly have walled off your heart and closed your heart off, that would mean that you're showing up with no vulnerability at all. If you're showing up and you feel cold and you feel withdrawn, defensive, protective, suspicious, those may be some indications that your heart is closed off. But if you allow yourself some tenderness there, knowing that the amount of vulnerability you bring to each new relationship should be reliant on how your intuition is letting you know you can trust this person with that vulnerability. So again, really today's theme is about listening to your intuition and really discerning between your intuition and your fear, your ego, your essence and your ego, your intuition, your fear.